Ready? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas, today being October 15th, 2024. Call the meeting to order, moved by Councillor Annable, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that the special meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas be hereby called to order at 4:05 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Annable, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that the agenda be adopted as amended. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Any disclosures? Let me go back. So we've amended the agenda to include that Deputy Clerk Charette would like to amend the agenda to add item 6C, request to accept the gifting of land, being part 2 of Plan 8R 5987 under Development Services. But I do appreciate that we're all still in favor. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. So we'll now begin our first public meeting. The public meeting is being held for a zoning amendment for the property at part of Lot 6, Concession 5, former Township of Mountain, now the Township of North Dundas, County of Dundas, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 8R 5678. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Mr. Calvin Pohl, our Director, to do the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. Everyone hear me back there? Going through. So tonight, or this afternoon, we're considering a zoning amendment to the Township of North Dundas zoning bylaw. And in order for council to have a public meeting and to proceed with the bylaw, there's a certain steps they have to follow. Nope, it's not going. Sure. Oh, there we go. So I'll just go through quickly the process for adopting a zoning amendment, what we're going to do this afternoon. First, I'll go through the objection requirements and legal information requirements for passing a bylaw. Then I'll go through the proposed amendment itself. There'll be a question period following that where you can ask questions with regard to the proposal, and then we'll close up the public meeting and move to the next one after that. So there's some changes to the Planning Act that recently happened back in June this year, where now only a specified person, a public body, or the registered owner, upon making oral or written submissions at this or before this public meeting, can appeal the decision of the Council of North Dundas to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Previous to June, neighbors could object to a zoning amendment to the courts. That has been removed as of June this year by the Government of Ontario, where specified persons is basically like Ontario Hydro, Crown corporations, that sort of thing. It's not a neighbor or anything like that. It's actually a public body, usually, or an organization. So this is your opportunity to voice concerns to council now with regard to zoning amendments. There is no other opportunity other than this afternoon to make oral submissions or written submissions to them before they consider the bylaw. So the application we have this afternoon is with regard to an application to rezone a property from rural to institutional special exemption, exception 1 in the zone, special exemption 1 zone, to permit a food bank, a not-for-profit second-hand shop, a furniture bank, and offices. So the property, as the mayor's pointed out earlier, is part of Lot 6, Concession 5. You can see it on the image there. It's in the former Township of Mountain, which is now North Dundas, in the County of Dundas, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 8R 5678. So as you can see, it's kind of kitty corner to the existing House of Lazarus Food Bank, which is the C1-9 zone in the image. So part of the requirements before council can consider a zoning amendment, it has to give notice of the public meeting. A sign is also required to be posted on the property, and notice was mailed out to all the owners and agencies within 120 meters of the subject property. So that's a legal requirement under the Planning Act. Part of the background right now, as you see in the images before, it's farmland right now. It is a 2-acre severed parcel, or just over 2 acres. The proposed use, as I've noted, is institutional uses, being the food bank, a not-for-profit second-hand store, a furniture bank, and an office. So here you can see an image of the property itself. Currently, under the official plan, it's within the settlement area, so this is what you want to see in settlement areas. Under the zoning bylaw, it's currently rural, and the proposed zoning is to bring it into the institutional zone and with a special exception. And as I noted earlier, it's approximately 2 acres or 0.8 of a hectare. And where the arrow points is where the location of the property is. So as noted earlier, the proposed zoning, the purpose is to rezone the property from rural to institutional, special exemption 1, and the effect will be that they will be permitted after the bylaws in effect to operate a food bank, a not-for-profit secondhand store, the furniture bank and offices, in addition to the existing institutional uses in the institutional zone. And that includes schools and all kinds of other typical institutional uses that you see in the institutional zone. Part of the requirements of council is to consider the provincial policy statements. These are changing as of next week, the 20th, so Monday next week. They actually changed to become the provincial planning statements. They're very similar in nature, and right now the requirements are that settlement in areas shall be the focus of growth and development. We have to provide opportunities for a diversified economic base and support long-term economic prosperity. And these are various sections of the current policies that are in effect, and this proposal meets with those requirements from the province. Another policy document that council has to consider is the county official plan, and it has policies that talk about complete communities which integrate a mix of uses and amenities. It talks about supporting a diversified existing local businesses, enabling a variety of commercial uses, as well as supporting long-term economic growth. So that policy document also speaks to allowing this kind of activity within a rural settlement area, which is where this is located. So there's a little bit of a clearer image or enlargement to show what area. So the I-1 is at the bottom left side is the property itself, which is the 2 acres, which will be rezoned if the bylaw proceeds. Their existing zoning up above is the C19, which is off of Sims Street. So that had a commercial type zoning. This will have an institutional zoning to allow for the not-for-profit and the food bank also. So this is what the amendment will actually look like at the end of the day when it's passed. It'll say notwithstanding the provisions of section 14.1, which is your institutional zone, it'll add these 4 additional uses to the permitted uses for this property. And here's a little draft site plan that's been submitted to the municipality from the consultants. You'll see where the new building will be located closer to the road with the parking out front and the septic system at the back of or towards the center and back part of the property is where the septic will be located. So they're proposing 2 entrances for vehicles to be able to get in and out of the site also. And part of the process for considering a zoning amendment is that we have to circulate this as public bodies and ministries. We received no comments back from either public bodies or ministries. Comments from the public, we did receive 1 phone inquiry based on the sign being posted on the property. They wanted to know where it was going to be located, and it's basically where the sign is where it's going to be located, and they had no objection to the proposal. And with that, I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pohl. So now that Mr. Pohl is finished, are there any questions, comments from those present? Yes, sir. If you just come to the microphone, your name and civic address for the clerk to record, please.
Yeah, my name is Michael Ball. My address is 10255 Ronson Road. The only query I have, and I couldn't see the diagram there because it's too far away from my eyes, but I'm interested to see where they've got parking there, because of the fact is you're probably all very well aware that currently there's a lot of parking on the streets there. I live further down Ronson Road, doesn't affect me, but I know some of my neighbours get upset with the parking on Sims and all that area. So I was just interested to know where the parking is going to be, and I can see that on there now.
Yeah, so there's extensive parking for out front, and they provided some along the side also, as you can see.
It'll be, I'm interested, I can see where you've got the entrances there, but you're cut off where Sims is further up, so I can't quite see where it is on the corner.
Right.
Okay, all right. That's what I was in. I have no objection to the idea of doing that. I just was interested to know on the parking issues. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comment and for your question. As many of us have been up and down Sim Street, we agree. It has been congested, and on busy days, I can see people being concerned about pulling out of the driveway and going up and down the street. So it's good to see that there's a good, I believe, a good plan for parking. Any other questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Lennox?
Just a quick question. I understand you sold the building in South Mountain, the old Scotia Bank. With the drop-off location of goods, is it going to be incorporated in the parking plan? Because I understand the HOL now, people just pull into the parking lot, drop off, but are they planning to pave to one side or extend it to have a dedicated drop-off zone for donated items?
Yeah, I don't know if the final details of how that's going to be worked out. They do plan to move the furniture side of it to this building and hopefully contain it all inside the building. But that's a good point to raise, is where would a drop-off be with them? So, and the issue too with the parking, it should help alleviate some of the parking issues because they're shifting things around with the food bank and what's going to be where. It should help alleviate some of the issues.
And I do believe that the applicant's not here and there's no representative from the applicant? No, okay. So if there are no more questions or comments, thank you very much for that presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Annable.
I can't see them not having a specific spot for drop-off. They do where they are, and as confusing as what's already up there, I can't see them not planning to have some kind of drop-off point. It just doesn't make sense. For their own information, even.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, comments, thank you. We'll move on to the next public meeting. And at this point, I'm going to call upon Director Cheney to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, members of council, members of the public. I know everybody sitting back there is all here to listen to what Monica has to say. So Monica Shade from Shade Group was appointed to do, under Section 76, was appointed to do a new assessment schedule for the East Kittle branch, the 8th concession, Stewart branch, and the Irvin branch of the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain. There's a lot of branches there that come off it. And we held one public meeting a little while ago, and from there, Monica did her new assessment on it, and this is a meeting tonight for council to consider the new engineer's report with the assessment. Once Monica's done her presentation, public will have their opportunity to ask questions or voice their concerns. Again, you will be asked, or if you want to come up to the microphone, please state your name and your address, and you can address whatever questions to Monica and to myself, and then after that, we will read the bylaw, and if council agrees with the bylaw, then we'll move forward with that with the first and second reading. So without further ado, Monica, if you want to come up, that'd be great.
So thank you and good afternoon. Thank you for your attendance at the meeting to consider for the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain, East, Stewart, 8th Concession, and Irvin branches. As Jamie mentioned, my name is Monica Shade, and I am a professional engineer with Shade Group, Inc. I was appointed by the municipality of North Dundas to prepare an engineer's report under Section 76 of the Drainage Act, which is an update to the schedule of assessment to allow for maintenance. So my presentation will include an introduction on the purpose of this meeting to consider, a very brief history of the existing drainage systems, the reason this process was initiated, a summary of my engineer's report, and an overview of what the next steps will be in the process of adopting the new report. So this meeting is to formally present the report and allow members of council and landowners an opportunity to provide input and ask questions before provisionally adopting the report. Following this input, council will decide if the project should proceed or if there's any reason that the report should be sent back for further revision. Assuming the decision is to proceed, the report is expected to be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw. Improvements to the East Branch of Kittle Creek Municipal Drain and Stewart Branch were last completed under an engineer's report dated November 24th, 1980, and adopted under bylaw 2981. The 8th concession and Irvin branches of the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain were constructed under a report written in 1967 and adopted under bylaw 867. The East Branch has a total length of approximately 4.5 kilometers and serves as an outlet for approximately 450 hectares. The Irvin Branch is approximately 300 meters long and serves approximately 7 hectares, while the Stewart and 8th concession branches are approximately 700 meters and 350 meters respectively and serve a total combined area of approximately 60 hectares. This slide provides an overview of the watershed for the East, Stewart, 8th concession, and Irvin branches of the Kittle Creek municipal drainage system. The pink outline represents the limits of the watershed for the East Branch. The green triangle hatching at the top is the combined watershed for the Stewart Branch and 8th concession branch, and the orange hatching on the kind of towards the middle of the page is the Irvin Branch subwatershed. The solid blue line represents the East Branch, with the Stewart, 8th concession, and Irvin branches shown as dashed blue lines. One thing to note is that the Stewart, 8th concession, and Irvin branches all drain into the East Branch, which means that properties can be assessed under multiple assessment schedules. For example, a property assessed into the Stewart Branch watershed boundary would have an assessment for costs associated with the Stewart Branch, but would also have costs assessed for the East Branch associated with the outlet. The Section 76 process was initiated in anticipation of future maintenance. Per the specifications of the Drainage Act, the municipality is legally obligated to maintain those drains as adopted under the Drainage Act. However, the engineer's report for the East Branch and its tributary branches are 40 to 50 years old, and there have been changes to the land use and property lines since the reports were last adopted. To ensure that costs for maintenance continue to be fairly assessed to all of those who benefit from and use the drainage system, an update to the schedule of assessment needed to be completed before the township can continue to complete the required maintenance works. An on-site meeting was held on April 17th earlier this year at the Nelson Leprade Center in Chesterville. Approximately 9 landowners attended. The on-site meeting serves primarily as a fact-finding meeting, as an opportunity to let the landowners know that an update is pending and inquire if anyone has any concerns with the current operation of the system. Landowners posed general inquiries regarding the update process, specific questions about upcoming maintenance, and expressed some concerns about ongoing beaver activity. No concerns were brought forth regarding the inadequacy of the current design as it exists. As no concerns with the current design were specifically brought forth, there was no need to initiate a major improvement process. Shade Group was also brought a preliminary version of the watershed boundary map to the on-site meeting for landowners to review and comment on. The scope of work covered in the engineer's report was generally limited to updating the schedule of assessment to allow for fair billing of future maintenance costs. The report includes a separate assessment schedule for each branch, and each assessment schedule includes a distribution of costs for all the properties within the applicable subwatershed. Costs for the East Branch were generally distributed using the factored area method. The factored area method refers to 3 different categories for determining an assessment: the land use, distance from the drain, and location within the watershed. Land use factors are assigned based on aerial imagery, digital mapping, and other supporting documentation from the county-provided geographic information systems. Land use for commercial use would be assigned a higher factor than farmlands, while properties with provincially significant wetlands or managed forest would be assigned a lower factor than farmland. The distance factor considers whether lands are directly adjacent the drain or further away. lands that drain into a tributary on the outer boundary of the watershed would be assigned a lower distance factor than those lands directly beside the drain. And finally, the distance factor considers where in the watershed the lands are located. Lands at the upper limits of the watershed make use of the entire length of the drain and are assigned a higher factor than those near the downstream limits of the drain. The split for outlet liability versus benefit liability was kept in the same proportions as the 1980 engineers report assessments, and benefit assessments to the applicable lands were assigned in the same relative apportionment. Should be noted that the assessment schedule for the Stewart branch and 8th concession branch were reviewed in detail, and it was determined that although the watershed boundary has slightly changed, the previous apportioned assessments are still considered to be appropriate. Updates to these branch assessment schedules were limited to updates to reflect current anticipated construction costs for maintenance. Construction cost estimates for each branch were estimated using data provided by the township's drainage superintendent based on historical costing for maintenance. Since the 1967 report, the culvert connected to the Irvin branch, to the property on the east side of County Road 7 appears to no longer exist, and a lateral drain has been dug on the east side of County Road 7, connecting to the Stewart branch rather than the Irvin branch. The previous assessment schedule from 1967 was therefore no longer appropriate. Updates to the Irvin branch were generally limited to the removal of lands from the east side of the County Road 7 from the assessment schedule, and calculations for new assessments of outlet and benefit to those remaining within the associated contributing area for the Irvin branch. Upon completion of my presentation, members of council and landowners will be given an opportunity to ask questions. Following the question and answer period, council will decide if the project will proceed or if the report should be sent back to the engineer for edits or additions. Assuming the project proceeds and no changes are requested, the report is expected to be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw later this evening. The bylaw would then be circulated to those within the watershed along with an invitation to the Court of Revisions. The Court of Revision is the first of 3 opportunities for appeals in the process. Each appeals body hears different types of appeals. The Court of Revision is held locally and allows landowners an opportunity to submit an appeal with respect to their assessments. Tribunal would hear appeals with respect to technical aspects of the project, while the referee would hear appeals on legal aspects of the work. Tribunal hearings and referee appeals are only scheduled if needed, whereas a sitting of the Court of Revision will be scheduled regardless. If you are thinking you would like to appeal, please ensure that the appropriate paperwork is submitted to the township clerk. If you have concerns or questions about the project that you wish to describe privately, myself or Jamie, the township's drainage superintendent, are available to discuss. As appeals can add significant cost to projects, we are always looking for ways to address as many questions or concerns as we can before going down that route. So that concludes my presentation. I'll pass it back to the mayor for the question period. If you do have specific questions about your property, such as how your assessment was calculated, I'm happy to arrange for a private phone call afterwards as well.
Thank you, Ms. Shade, for that presentation. And as mentioned, questions, comments about the presentation? Anyone? Yes, please, ma'am, come ahead. And I think, Madam Clerk, we still need names and address. So your name and address for the clerk, please.
Cheryl from 1955 County Road 7. I think our big concern in our meeting in the spring with most of the same people here was about the increase of homes in the area that weren't there back in 1980
Right.
in that subdivision.
So that's part of why the assessment schedule had to be updated, was to take what I believe was formerly farmland and take that and make sure that each of those individual parcels for all of the subdivision are now assessed a portion of the costs as well. And as I mentioned with the factored areas method, because a residential property by default sheds off more water than per area of farmland, their assessment, if you looked at like a per acre basis, would generally be higher than, say, farmland, for example.
So where do we find these percentages before? Did I understand? No. Did I comprehend that these 2 readings are going to be tonight?
But so the
Did I
breakdown of the assessments is already in the report that you had available to you prior to this meeting.
My report is a letter to come and show up here.
So the letter, I believe, had a note within the text that said you can either download it from this link or contact a representative at the
Which I
township
didn't do.
to access the report.
Okay, so that's where I'll find my
So that
specific-
report has, yeah, if you flip to the back of it, there's a spaghetti mess of line items that's built off of an Excel spreadsheet. Best bet is to go to the map first, find your property. It'll have a number on your property, and then flip to the spreadsheets, find your number. You can either find your number or the roll number for your property. And then if you follow that all the way to the right-hand side, that'll see your assessed cost. Now, there's multiple assessment schedules in the report as well. So depending on if you're on a branch or only on the main drain, you might find your property number in multiples. And then
So
there's
this is not going to be clear or easy.
But that's where this was an opportunity to come with questions about
Okay.
the report that was made available ahead of time.
Do we
So
roughly know what percentage they got? Like the subdivision as a whole? No,
no.
like, no.
not off the top of my head, no.
Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Julian Whittam, 13467 County Road 3. My property is within the watershed for the drain. Doesn't have any frontage to the drain. The issue that I have is moving water from my property to the drain itself. So I guess it's a clarification question. How does that work and how does it tie into this? Because it's difficult for me to benefit from all the advantages of the drain if I can't get that water to it in an appropriate manner.
Yeah, and so that's a common problem and a common question brought up. Everybody within what's known as a drainage area is contributing towards the water, either directly or indirectly. So your direct apportionment of what you pay, if you were to break it down as a percentage for your assessment, would be significantly reduced compared to someone who is directly beside the drain. So ultimately, if you're looking towards addressing your drainage solutions, that kind of heads off into a different route when you start talking about things like branches. So you can start petitioning for another branch to connect your property to the drain itself to get a direct connection, but that would be a separate activity from what we're talking about here tonight.
Right. And is, pardon my ignorance of overall drainage questions, Jamie, you may be able to you seem like you know about drainage.
I hope so.
But like where does the difference fall between an official branch and the more sort of less official roadside sort of ditches that carry water along?
So
If I'm on a county road, that's a United Counties question. They're responsible for doing that, right?
Yeah, so if you have water that drains into a roadside ditch and the roadside ditch then drains out to the East Kittle,
Yeah.
the roadside ditch, you can consider it the same as you would a branch, but it's private infrastructure. So it's not protected and obligated for maintenance or obligated to accept your water in the same way that a drain adopted under the
Right.
Drainage Act is.
And that's private infrastructure owned in this case by the United
So
Counties.
either
'cause
the
it's a
county or
road.
the private,
Right.
yeah, if you're on a county road, it'd be county infrastructure.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. Any further questions? Comments? Seeing none. Members of council, questions, comments? I want to thank Monica or Ms. Shade for the presentation, and as we all have an opportunity to listen to Monica Shade speak about drains and ditches and drains and all of those things, I as well learn lots every time I hear this stuff. It is the one of the hidden secrets and things that go on in our rural areas that affect landowners, and every opportunity we have to learn a bit more is appreciated, and I do appreciate it. It serves us all well whenever we're out in the public and we get a chance to at least try to inform the best of our ability, but it is quite a science, and I appreciate the time you spend with us about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just give me a second to get my bearings here. Oh, Vern, please come up. Please come up, sir.
I just want to know if the plan was to still start on the drain this fall?
If, to be fair to everyone that's out there in the YouTube land, Vern, if you would just address and let us know your address and your name, and then the question I'm sure can be answered, or attempt.
I'm on Crump Road, 13438 Crump Road, just off County Road 7. Quite involvement in the drain around the property because we also have 150 acres of bush property that borders County Road 7 and the Boyne Road. And I know we talked about it, and the plan was to start things this fall, cleaning out the drain. Is that still
I
the
guess
plan?
Jamie can comment on the specific maintenance stuff, but I will say that from a Drainage Act perspective, this is still one tick box in a few more steps to go. So after this, you'll get another letter inviting you, if you would like to appeal the assessment, to a court of revision. So it'll have a date on that, and there's specific timelines that we have to meet with that. So that'll be likely within the next month or two is when that meeting would be scheduled.
Oh,
From the time that that invitation goes out, there's the start of what's called a 40-day appeal period. So either the end of that 40 days, if we get no appeals or we've dealt with them, that's kind of, we've reached another milestone. If there's appeals, it could go on longer. But to say that, I think if you're following the process of the act, I'd say this fall is unlikely, but maybe you're going to do something in the winter?
so it'll take a bit of time before it actually starts. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I can, yeah, Monica's absolutely right, Vern, that the plan is still to go ahead. As we know, we still have some new beaver issues there, so we're trying to get that cleaned up to help eliminate and mitigate those issues. But yeah, legally under the Drainage Act, we have to have all of these steps in place first before we can do any maintenance. So with the type of land that it is there, more than likely this winter, we'll be trying to get in there to do it when the ground's a little bit more frozen, just to allow us access in there. But the plan is still to go ahead and get stuff done this year for sure. This year or early 2025 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Vern, well, you have to give us your last name before we let you go.
McMillan.
For the
Vern
clerk's benefit. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Is there anything else?
Thanks.
Thank you. Nothing from members of council? Well, I want to thank Monica very much for her presentation and for answering the questions and all the effort that's gone into this. And I look to Director Cheney. Thank you very much as well for that. Before we take a little stretch your leg break, I have two action requests or two resolutions I need to go through. Moved by Councillor Annable, seconded by Councillor Lennox, bylaw number 2024-63 being a bylaw to amend the former Township of Mountain zoning bylaw 79-6 as amended for the property legally described as part of Lot 6, Concession 5, Part 1 on Reference Plan 8R 5678 in the former Township of Mountain, now the Township of North Dundas, County of Dundas, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 15th day of October 2024. Before I call the question, Mr. Pohl, do you have anything to add? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And then the next resolution, moved by Councillor Uhrig, second by Councillor Annable, that bylaw number 2024-64 being a provisional bylaw to adopt Section 76 of the Engineers Report of the East Branch, Stewart Branch, 8th Concession Branch, and Irvin Branch of the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain Council be read a first and second time in open council. Director Cheney, anything to add?
No, I do not.
All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much. We're going to take 5 minutes. According to my watch, it'll be 4:45. We'll resume. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to move into action requests. And Madam CAO. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annable, that council approves expanding the township's health benefit plan, professional services coverage to include services provided by a registered social worker, psychotherapist, and clinical counselor effective October 16, 2024. Madam CAO.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. So the township currently has an employee assistance plan for full-time employees. That provides us with 5 hours of counseling individual and 5 hours of couples counseling. The counseling through that plan is through a registered social worker, psychotherapist, and clinical counselor. In addition to that, we also have our regular health benefits plan, and that provides $700 of coverage to access a psychotherapist or a master of social work. So both of these programs are wonderful programs to have for our employees. The issue is that the two don't fit seamlessly together, so that you can't start with your employee assistance program and then once you've used your 5 hours, move on to access the dollars that are available through the health plan. So if we covered the same professionals through both plans, you would be able to seamlessly go from one to the other instead of having to start with a new counselor to be able to access the other kind of coverage. So I talked to Green Shield about that, and what Green Shield has done is they've said that they will include the 3 professionals that are covered under our EAP at no impact to the township's rates. Now, our rates are set based on experience, so there won't be a change this year, but there could be a change in future years depending on the amount that it's accessed. And the beauty of our EAP is that it's through Inkblot. So Inkblot is an online virtual platform where you actually get 15 minutes free. You go on and you do sort of a matching to make sure that you're getting the right counselor that fits your needs. And then you either go ahead with that one or you go to the next one and find the one that meets you. So it's a really great, accessible program for everybody. And this would allow the person to be able to stay with that professional longer if we marry up the 2 types of coverage.
Thank you. Questions, comments? See Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, I understand the health plans are for full-time employees only. And you said it helps everybody. So what is the liability impact? What is the plan for those part-timers, being the firefighters or the young people from rec or the young people from roads, should they experience a traumatic event or something workplace where they would like to talk to a mental health professional?
Okay, so specifically for fire, we do have some coverage. I'm not sure the extent of the insurance coverage through VFIS, the Volunteer Firefighters Insurance. I know that Chief Raystrick is looking into that right now. There are enhancements available, so I expect that he will be coming to council with recommendations with respect to that. As far as our part-time employees, certainly if there was any kind of an event here, we can always bring in a counselor, and we have in the past when there's been an issue that needs to be dealt with work-related. We do the same with the firefighters. We do have access to resources to come in and provide counseling. If council wanted to look at a plan for additional coverage for part-time, it's certainly an option. Just the one that we have right now is it covers full-time, and the firefighters, like I said, is separate.
At this moment, I'm more interested in the metrics, so the cost. If you were to add part-timers to the benefits, would that cost outweigh the likelihood of the event or vice versa prior to making a suggestion up here?
Yeah, I can certainly ask for a price from our benefits provider. Absolutely, they'll give me a quote for sure.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? So that's carried. Thank you. Move into Recreation and Culture. Ms. Meerberg. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that Council authorize the Director of Recreation and Culture to enter into an agreement with the Ontario Trillium Fund to accept $200,000 in funding support for the construction of a splash pad for the Hallville Community Park, and that Council authorize Director of Recreation and Culture to submit a scope change for the ICIP funding for the Hallville Community Park to remove the soccer field and ball diamond and to add a splash pad. Ms. Meerberg.
Good evening, Council. The ICIP grant that was awarded to the township for the development of the Hallville Parkland included the construction of major park amenities, including but not limited to an outdoor rink, playground, ball diamond, and soccer field. After the grant was awarded, council and staff became aware that the public was interested in having a splash pad. Phases 1 and 2 of the park development were approved by council to move forward, and it was planned that phase 3 would be reassessed once phases 1 and 2 were complete and the remaining budget was determined. During the design process for the park, Novatech, our engineering and project consulting firm, incorporated a location for a potential future splash pad. Due to the impact that the splash pad infrastructure would have on the park engineering plans, and knowing that the splash pad is or was a likely future park amenity, staff opted to plan for it to be implemented. So just include it in the design plans. In recent months, the Recreation and Culture Department was successful in its application to the Ontario Trillium Fund for $200,000 in funding support for the construction of a splash pad. The funding support is still pending as the OTF grant contract has not yet been signed. Staff wanted to consult council before proceeding and I'm seeking authorization to do so. Staff are also seeking council's authorization to proceed with a scope change with our ICIP grant to remove the ball diamond and soccer field from the project scope and add a splash pad. The total estimated cost for the splash pad is $476,000. We estimate that we will have $247,500 about of the original project budget left to be allocated to phase 3 amenities. With the Ontario Trillium Fund, the $200,000 coming from that, and the anticipated remaining ICIP funding, the funding shortfall for a splash pad is estimated to be approximately $28,500. Should council direct staff to proceed with accepting the OTF funding, submit the scope change request to ICIP, and proceed with the construction of the splash pad, council should be aware that the project budget overages are possible, but staff will endeavor to reduce the park development project costs and seek support from community groups in order to lessen the financial impact to the general taxation.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Meerberg. Questions, comments? Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, so I would like to say good job with getting the grant. Reduced the initial cost or the estimated cost by what, like 43% of total splash pad. Yeah, I just want to know if this is all approved and it goes forward, what's the expected maintenance cost of a splash pad yearly? And do we have to bring in outsiders to measure chemicals, repair cracks? Or is your plan to have in-house staff trained to do everything, or the majority?
Yep, that's a great question. To address your question or your comment about applying for the grant, Lisa Devereaux was the one responsible for that, so I'd like to just give her kudos. The maintenance costs are very low, we found out. We would have to send one of our team members once a day to check on the filtration system there. But with most of our parks, especially ones that are used frequently throughout the day, we'd like to go and check on the garbages and check on the regular maintenance of those things. So sending one of our team members once a day to check on the splash pad mechanics is not out of something that we can attain.
All right, perfect. So it can easily fit into your current staff structure?
Yes, we believe so, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Uhrig?
No, I think it's some added good news after we had the groundbreaking for the Hallville Park this morning. I do think the one thing I will say is, and I don't begrudge the fact that, obviously it's good work getting a grant, and it's good work kind of, gearing it toward what the public feedback has been, but I do think it's in the Recreation Department's best interest to keep kind of ball diamonds and soccer pitches on the forefront for elsewhere in the township, because we are seeing an increase in that, and we do run into shortage of those playing areas throughout the summer months. So taking planned ones away, which this is a great idea, and I'm not suggesting it's not, but taking planned ones away then kind of, opens up the fact that that shortfall still exists. So I do think, long-term somewhere else in the municipality is a good idea to keep those things in mind if they're not coming to Hallville in the next, 5-6 years sort of scenario, right? But otherwise, no, this is fantastic. And I mean, maybe the we want a splash pad crowd will calm down a little bit. Thank you.
I know, thank you for mentioning Ms. Devereaux's name for submitting that grant application, and it's from my understanding from outside with people from the industry, it is quite a craft to be able to craft a grant proposal and have it accepted. There's lots of language and things needed to attract the attention of those that read the grant proposals. So kudos to her for that, and my appreciation. And I think all of our appreciation is that to achieve that and to receive that type of grant. One question I have, and I look forward to that. And I think back to early days when we were talking splash pads, and maybe before this council, and there were those outside talking about how a splash pad, why isn't it being done? They're only $25,000. It's nothing to put a splash pad in, and then we see that number of it being $476,000, and it paints a different picture of what a $25,000 splash pad would look like. But they are expensive, and as we were there today in Hallville, it's a growing community. It's going to attract many people to that area. I look forward to that. But to Councillor Urig's thoughts, I'd like to ask Ms. Meerberg, there still is green space available for future development, and I know early days whenever we're throwing about the idea of splash pads, or at least when I was throwing them about, it was hopefully there'd be an opportunity for future councils to find ways to fund or support or to seek support from outside to look after a ball diamond in a soccer field. I can just see someone's name attached to the soccer pitch or attached to a ball field. And so I look forward to that. I look forward to a park that encompasses active, passive, all kinds of ways to enjoy the outside and enjoy our park in Hallville as it moves right along. So I do appreciate the effort, I appreciate the research, and I appreciate the opportunity to celebrate the whole park, and including the splash pad. Saying that, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And another one from Ms. Meerberg, moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Councillor Urig, that council authorize staff to apply for the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, the CSRIF, that is delivered by the Ministry of Sport for up to $1 million in funding support for capital improvements to the Chesterfield and District Arena, and that council commit to providing matching funds for CSRIF approved project components. Ms. Meerberg.
So my report provides a short synopsis of the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. With council's support, staff would like to apply for Stream 1, which is for repair and rehabilitation projects. We'd like to apply for up to $1 million in matching funds. Applications for Stream 1 are due October 29th, 2024, so this year. As our staff team puts together the funding application, we hope to target all or most of these items. So roof repairs, building insulation, additional dehumidifiers, and replacement of the external doors and the condenser. The Recreation and Culture Department is undergoing a Recreation and Culture Strategic Plan study. The end product will provide council and staff with guidance for how to strategically manage our recreation programming, events, activities, facilities, and services. Although we are too early to make any conclusions or recommendations regarding the facilities, the project consultant has indicated that he is in favor of council and staff applying for this grant in an effort to secure funds for infrastructure updates that would prolong the life of the Chesterfield and District Arena. So should staff be authorized by council to proceed with submitting a funding application? And should the application be successful, staff will ensure that the township's commitment of matching funds will be incorporated into future budget planning.
Thank you, Ms. Meerberg. Questions, comments? Councillor Lennox.
Just a comment for consideration for council. I'm looking to be swayed onto the yes side for this. The only thing which is holding me back is projects must be completed within 24 months. Taking budget into consideration, we're not going to see that till mid-December, early December. Maybe I'm looking at Madam CAO. You may have seen an early draft. Is this no, you haven't?
No.
I'm just hesitant in committing a lot of funds. If we match up to $1 million in projects, can we pick and choose what projects we do based upon funding? Is there any way to back out of some of the projects?
That's a great question. So it is in my report that should council wish to make any modification in project scope, it's subject to approval by the province, which is not guaranteed. So even with our ISIP funding for the Hallville Community Park, we could submit a scope change. It's called a request for scope change. And then I know with ISIP, in that case, it takes up to 6 months for that to be processed. So we could submit a scope change and see if the grant is amenable to that.
Yeah. Again, I like the idea. It's just I'm hesitant with 24 months. And if you do a scope change, it takes 6 months. Now you have 18 months to replace X number of doors. Get the condensers can be installed relatively quickly, but just as an example, or roof repairs, that takes time. And you only have really the summer months to do it. So I'm going to look on to my fellow councillors and the mayor to sway my opinion.
Thank you for the opportunity. Councillor Uhrig.
I was once of a mind, where we start looking into this, glassy-eyed future of, what a double pad facility could look like and stuff like that. And then when Russell Township opens up the tenders and you see the multi-million dollars and the likelihood of more millions needed, ultimately, having spoken with some seemingly people in the know, where that kind of budget might ultimately end up, I am, more and more in favor of, taking care of what we have at present. And, knowing dollars are what they are, any opportunity we have here to, realize some of those dollars from an alternate source, I think is our best avenue. I do realize where Council Lennox is coming from, and I understand that to be a concern, but I would say that of what has been targeted to be funded through this grant opportunity are the most pressing issues currently facing us at the Chesterfield Arena, right? So I don't see an issue with taking our chances, hoping for the best and seeing what comes of, being awarded this type of money. I mean, it seems that every municipality neighboring us is getting funding from some level of government, and just because we've been too far ahead in some cases to receive that kind of funding, I think this is a good one for us to go after. And I do think it is imperative that, while a strategic plan that's forthcoming is going to chart our future and, give us some level of direction, I do fall back on the fact that we have 2 arenas right now, and it's in our best interest to update and improve them to the best of our ability and to allow for all user groups to benefit from it versus, shutdowns like we saw this year already with Chesterfield Arena, just given the weather and the equipment not operating at the level in which it should have because of the humidity and the warm temperatures we've experienced outside. So I am in favor of going forward with this and seeing, what our chances are with receiving this level of funding.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Annable.
I would like to see us try to keep the buildings as functional as possible. To apply to get millions to build a new one scares the crap out of me, to tell you the truth. It could take forever. Again, I would like to see upkeep done, and it sounds like, to me, as if we're kind of getting in on this on the ground floor. It's something we can watch and work on until we decide what has to be done and when. Thank you.
Councillor Lennox.
I respect both of your opinions. Thank you. And I fully agree. If we can get money from the ministry, let's take the money. It's just the matching funds is what bothers me here. And it's like, do we pave a road or drill a new well or do a roof in 24 months? Do we have that time? I think we do. And if we're willing to take a risk, and it's a low risk, I'm in favor.
I guess you don't need to hear my comment then.
I would love your comment.
No, and I'm glad that the council's in agreement with this idea. I think it's absolutely necessary that we take advantage of any opportunity to seek support, funding from the upper levels of government, because in my mind, if it's $1 million that we need to match, I think that's the right way to say it. If that's in the next 24 months, if it's $1 million, in 36 months, it would be without the grant. If we needed repairs, the repairs, as we all know, would now cost so much more. And with the report that we're waiting to read and the proposals and the struggle we're going to have weighing how much money we can borrow if we were to do something akin to the Township of Russell's project, there would be a lengthy discussion about that, and those costs to do the repairs would continue to rise. And so anyway, that's just my thought. I think this is an opportunity to keep the roof on while we investigate other options. Saying that, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And thank you, Ms. Meerberg, for those presentations. Two snippets of excellent news. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Development Services and Director Pohl. Before we start, Emily, is there any opportunity to get that bigger?
Yes, please. I'm old.
Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, that council authorize the receipt of land being Part 2 on reference plan 8R 5987 attached hereto from John and Cynthia Poran as a gift, and authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the agreement of purchase and sale and any other documents related to the purchase. And that council hereby agrees to cover the legal and survey fees associated with the transfer of Part 2 on Plan 8R 5987 to the township, and that the rezoning application fee to rezone the subject lands to the open space OS zone and restricted land exception 1 RL-1 zone. And that council agrees to have a 181 meter long chain link fence installed along the southern boundary of Part 2 on Plan 8R 5987 once the first occupancy permit is issued within the subdivision on Part 2 on Plan 8R 5522, and that the fence be part of the subdivision agreement. Mr. Pohl.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So we have an opportunity to acquire an access route to get to the park through a private landowner right now. If I can slip to the next slide, the very top there. So we got our existing park where we're talking about this evening with regard to water park and all the rest of it. And that started, you did your groundbreaking ceremony this morning. Now we're looking at a new proposed subdivision that's coming into Hallville to the east. But there's a piece of property in between, and we're looking to try and connect that new subdivision with pedestrian access and bike access to get to the park. And they're willing to donate a 15-meter wide piece of land to connect the two. The result of it is that they get a little triangular piece of land to the north, which will be separated because of this giving of the 15 acres, or a 15-meter strip, which is 0.222 of an acre, or of a hectare of land. It's half an acre. That will border along the Wiley Creek. The Wiley Creek runs parallel to this strip of land, which creates a boundary. It is a deep ditch, which is one of the reasons we asked for the 15 meters for proper setbacks from that drainage ditch or creek. Also, it's a no-build zone with regard to cleanouts for the drain itself. If we ever need to clean that out in the future, the 50 meters gives us enough room to work on that side of the drain, as well as the park side going into the plan of subdivision. So this will connect the subdivision to the park and allow pedestrian access without having to go all the way around to Kerrs Ridge Road and all the way around Hallville itself. So part of the donation to us involves a few scenarios. One is the rezoning that was mentioned in the resolution. So this space itself would be, the strip of land would be rezoned to open space to connect to the park, as well as that little triangular piece requires a rezoning to make sure that it includes setbacks from the municipal drain, which aren't on that zoning right now, as well as a restriction on this house size. Excuse me. We looked at the Hydro-G reports for the subdivision, had it peer reviewed. That was part of the analysis of this whole process moving forward. And it was determined that the maximum house size should be around 1,400 square feet to fit on that little triangular piece of land. It's big enough to accommodate a well and septic, according to the hydrologists that reviewed the reports. So that would have to be incorporated into the zoning amendment that we do at the same time as rezoning the open space. One of the other things, if we can scroll forward to the pictures. One more slide there. So they've taken some pictures during the survey to show the land that'll be dedicated to the municipality or gifted to the municipality. It is an open piece of area. It's quite nice and clear, easy for us to put the pathway in there. They're asking for a fence so that the residents that are using this pathway don't go onto their private land, just to differentiate. That fence can be erected as part of, and the pathway can be erected as part of the subdivision agreement. For some of the, they have to give parkland, and instead of giving parkland, they can give services in lieu. So that would be part of the requirements to get the fence erected along this strip, as well as putting some gravel down to get a solid surface for the pedestrians to travel on. So that becomes part of the subdivision agreement to cover that aspect off. So one of the things in the last page of the report was the financial analysis. One of the things I had there was some communication breakdown there. I had assumed they were going to cover the survey costs. They did phone me up the morning that this was coming to council at the last meeting and asked if they understood that they were going to be covered by the municipality. I hadn't included in the report, so they asked that that be added. So that's been added to the resolution before council, that we add in the survey costs, which are estimated around $6,700. It's actually less. We got the final quote for it. It's slightly less than that. So they've asked that that be included in the overall donation of the land to us to make the connection work.
Okay, so just for, I'm sure just for my benefit, the last line in the financial analysis should read the survey costs will be paid by the municipality?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Annable?
I'm in favor. When all of this park is coming together, a project like this seems to tie in quite well, and all the construction and all that can be done all at the same time. And when it's done, it'll be great, I think.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions, comments? I look forward to, as Councillor Annable mentions, the park coming together and the things that we have discussed today and the opportunity we had earlier today to be at the park. I just want to thank Mr. Pohl. I remember it wasn't a level of stress, but a level of concern about how people from Shellyan and elsewhere were going to easily access the park, and how we wanted to make sure that every opportunity was investigated, or you wanted to make sure. So kudos again to staff, to you, and to the Porins for being such good neighbors to the park and allowing this project to go ahead. Without them, it would be a challenge to get everyone to the park in a safe manner. So my thanks go out to them on behalf of everyone that's going to use the park, and thanks to you for making sure this went forward. Saying all of that, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. We're going to get it ready to move into closed session. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Urick, that council proceed in camera at, I'm going to say 5:16 p.m. pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act, 2001, subsection D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically employee benefits, and subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, specifically municipal property damage. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, it's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that council return to open session at 5:44 PM. That council discussed pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001 subsection D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically employee benefits, and subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, specifically municipal property damage. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Councillor Urick, that council instructs the CO to proceed as directed in closed session. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, that council instructs the Director of Recreation and Culture to proceed with option 1 as discussed in closed session. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, that's carried. I'm almost on track. Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, pursuant to the special meeting of October 1, 2024, council is now instructing staff to proceed as directed in the closed session held on October 1, 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Councillor Moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-65 to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 15th day of October 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And finally, moved by Councillor Urick, second by Councillor Lennox, that council adjourn at 5:46 PM to the call of the chair. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And for those following along online, thank you very much for your participation. Good night.